What's up, guys? Colorado Sports View here. The Avalanche pick up the W over the St. Louis Blues on the second night of the back-to-back, 2-1. In this game, this was a really close game, a really tight game. You could really tell that St. Louis was really hungry for points, and they're a desperate club because right now they're not in the playoffs, and they've had their injury issues, and this club's been struggling. But it didn't look like it tonight. They look like a great club tonight. But the Avalanche are just too much for them, I think, in the end. But we're gonna talk about that. But well played the St. Louis Blues. It was a fun series of games. 1 goal differential on both. But the Avalanche come out on top in both games, and that's what you like to see. The Avalanche tonight, like they were yesterday, were wearing their thirds. There you go. I got a McKinnon third. McKinnon got a goal tonight as well. So good stuff from McKinnon, and he's keeping. He's scored 3 goals in the last 2 games, and they've been big goals. And hopefully this can kind of spark the fire in McKinnon. He's been getting the points, of course, but big night from McKinnon. Obviously. And that goal was big, and it was one of the 2 goals. So of course that goal's got to be big. It was a snipe past Ville Husso. By the way, Husso played really good tonight. Props to him, keeping his club in the game. But Husso played really well, and Grubauer played phenomenally too. Grubauer could be considered the front runner for the Vezina, and there's not really many questions why he is. Grubauer is phenomenal. It was a phenomenal goalie, showdown. And we'll talk about how the game ended, but, a phenomenal goalie showdown tonight for both teams. So, in the first period, the Blues came out strong. They came out hungry, you could tell. And they got they had the first, good amount of shots. There was a point where it was 7-0 shots for the Blues, and I was like, oh no, Avs, what are you doing? But we pretty much, we kind of turned the momentum, and we started getting our own shots. We had a power play. We didn't score on it, but we started getting all of our own shots, and, it was big. And we would eventually cash in on a goal from McKinnon. The Blues were putting together a good shift, and then McKinnon just turns the other way and just snipes it on Ville Husso. And, that just shows what kind of a team we are. Our transition game is so good. And, just like that, you make one mistake and it's in the back of your net. So, obviously a great goal from McKinnon, and that would make it 1-0. Later in the first, Ryan O'Reilly would tie it. The Blues had a power play, didn't score on that, but pretty much shortly after, Ryan O'Reilly scores with a wrister. It was really unfortunate because Grubauer was making an amazing sequence of saves, and then he's kind of all on the ground and just scrum in front of the net, and Ryan O'Reilly finds a hole to put the puck in, and they score. So unfortunate, it's a greasy goal, but still a goal. But so the game's tied, and second period is kind of back and forth. I think the Avs played a good second period, but they didn't get the puck in the net. Neither did the Blues, and we go on the third period, and it's kind of similar, chances for both teams. The Avalanche would end up out shooting the Blues 34-27. And let's talk about the third period for a sec. So this third period, it's frustrating for me being an Avs fan. I mean, obviously we end up winning, but it's just frustrating as an Avs fan, because you're just watching and you're seeing, obviously, they're not going to call as many things as the third period, but you're frequently seeing your players get hooked. I saw Mikko Rantanen get hooked a couple times. I saw Avalanche players getting held. I saw slashes by the Blues. I saw trips, and these things aren't even being called. Interference. These things aren't even being called, and obviously, there's a reason they're not being called, kind of, but they're doing it so many times, and they're just getting away with all these stick infractions, and it's a little frustrating being a fan. And I mean, the reason pretty much why they're not being called, but because the Blues are kind of taking advantage of that, and obviously, why wouldn't you? But it's just frustrating because it's just so many stick infractions, so it's hard for the Avalanche to actually keep the puck on their stick because they have so many Blues players like hooking them and all this stuff. And like, it's hard to keep the zone. It's hard to do all that. But the Blues, yeah, they were. It did seem like they were committing a lot of stick infractions, but they were keeping, they were keeping interesting, and they were also, playing tight defense, and that's always good. But frustrating because you see all the penalties that are being committed, but none of them are getting called. But that's just hockey sometimes. But with 40 seconds left in the third period, CALE McCarr, all hail CALE, gets the goal. Not a redirect, but it does bounce off some things. Not Avalanche players, but I think it bounces off Jaden Schwartz's stick, and it bounces off, I think, some other Blues player, and it goes in the net. Lucky bounce, but, we'll take it. And it's big for the Avalanche. They get 2 more points and are in a 14-game point streak here. And we're now 4 points ahead of Vegas because they lost again. And, keep our ground on the Wild because they beat Vegas. Yeah, we're 4 points ahead of Vegas, 6 points ahead of the Wild. Like, if the Avalanche can keep this up, they could run away with the division. Obviously, it's huge. And it'll be big because the first round is you have the top 3 teams. It's a lot of a tighter race, but the bottom teams, the race is tight for that 4th spot, but they have a lot less points, and they're not as good hockey teams. So having that first spot, it's going to give you an easier first round. So that's huge. But yeah, the Avalanche win 2-1 in a close game off of CALE McCarr's goal. Great to see. And yeah, the Avalanche will play the Minnesota Wild on Monday. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to that game. Big games against the Wild. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Peace. Go Avs.